Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the second episode of Back in the Dugout podcast. As you can see, we are back in the wide format. We figured out the camera situation, obviously. We're back with all our equipment. We're back in the actual studio and not just the backdrop. So I just want to say thank you guys for tuning in for episode number 2. Thank you for Tunnel Vision Sports for continuing support and just showing me a bunch of love. Follow us on Instagram at BITD Podcast. We post daily picks, daily best players like pitchers and hitters and position players. So let's just get right into it for our first segment of In the News this week. We got a lot of contract situations that are going around the MLB. First, we're going to start with Ke'Bryan Hayes. Signed an 8-year, $70 million deal with the Pirates to remain in Pittsburgh. It's the largest contract in Pirates history and is a record for a player who's only played 1 to 2 years professionally. And in those 1 to 2 years, I think it's actually 1 to 3, including this year, he's had just 123 career games. But this year, he actually left the season opener with a finger injury, but did return the very next day. He had muscle spasms, I believe, in his finger, but he did return. It's very kind of sketchy to give that much money for someone who's only played 123 career games. Also got hurt in this year's season opener, as I said. So, it's kind of sketchy to give someone that much money, but, I think he's very dedicated to Pirates. I think he's kind of like the bright spot in their team that has not been looking very good for recent years. He's been hitting decently well. He's 4 for his first 10 with 1 RBI. And last year, while he did level off a bit in his numbers when he did see that increase in at-bats and playing time, I don't think it should be that much of an issue as of yet because, you still don't know what kind of player you're getting. You're definitely getting a solid infielder, a great third baseman, and a decent hitter. But like I said, that much money can be kind of scary, seeing that he did kind of level off last year. And, in that leveling off season last year, he did have an OPS plus under 100, which therefore means, he was a below average MLB player. So I do hope we see him continue this upward trend, because he's going to be playing more. His numbers, as I said, might level off or plateau. But, it's just important to see growth in that first year of getting all that money because usually it's kind of a bad sign if you see regression quickly, as you saw. Let's see with Chris Davis. Chris Davis was a lot older, obviously. He was a different player. He kind of was just a power hitter. He started striking out a lot more, but he did get paid a lot of money. So, that money was kind of not well spent because he's still getting paid, I think, this year, and he does not play anymore. He had, I think, two All-Star seasons, maybe one, where he hit absolute bombs, but kind of fell off, as I said, plateaued. And, that money's just not worth it at that point, and it's a lot of money. So I do think Ke'Bryan Hayes is a slightly different player. I mean, very different player. Next, we're going to go to Jose Ramirez. Signed a 5-year, $124 million extension to stay in Cleveland with a no-trade clause. Unless he decides to waive it, he will be in Cleveland until he is 36 years old. The contract shattered the previous Cleveland record with Edward Encarnacion receiving 3 years, $60 million in 2016. And if I'm not wrong, Edward Encarnacion was pretty old at that point. Not that Jose Ramirez is very young, but he is younger than Edward Encarnacion, so it is a better contract. And I did see things that it was a team-friendly contract in relation to his abilities and the amount of money he was paid. There was trade rumors sending him to the Padres, Blue Jays, and Dodgers, all, World Series contending teams. Cleveland is not in that boat as of now, as we have seen with their recent trades in recent years. But they do lock in a solid third baseman and a stellar hitter in Jose Ramirez. He's one of the most well-rounded players in the MLB behind Mike Trout and Mookie Betts in terms of in terms of WAR. So as I said, he's one of the most talented third basemen in the league, along with Nolan Arenado. And as I said, they're nowhere near that championship caliber as some of those teams that he might have went to since he lost to Francisco Lindor, Michael Brantley, Edward Encarnacion, as we mentioned before, Yan Gomes, not as much, and Carlos Santana. They're a long way from the 2016 World Series team, in which they lost to the Cubs. And it's actually similar with the Cubs. When I was writing this, I was thinking about, the Cubs are kind of in a similar predicament. They're kind of in that rebuild situation. They have a lot younger players, I believe, the Cubs. But both of them are looking kind of all right to begin the season. So they've kind of gotten past my expectations. And I said, Ramirez is just something for the Cleveland fans to look forward to. He's been an all-star, stellar third baseman, a stellar hitter. So just something for them to look forward to in this season where they're not really expecting much. And so far this season, at the time of writing and filming, he has 5 hits with 2 doubles and a home run in 12 at-bats. So he's looking very good, one of the bright spots on Cleveland and helping them, kind of exceed expectations thus far this season. So next on the list, we move to Rafael Devers. So in bad news for the Red Sox, Devers rejected contract extensions talks from the Red Sox. Two sides are very far apart on numbers. And he does not want to talk about extensions going forth in the season this year. So they're going to have to wait. Obviously, since the deadline is passed, it's not a good sight for the Red Sox fans. And he considers himself on the same level as Fernando Tatis Jr., who signed a massive 14-year, $340 million. And Tatis will make $36 million in 2029 through 2034. So he thinks he's on par with, obviously, Fernando Tatis is, I think, a little younger, has a bit more injury concerns, but is considered a 5-tool player. Not that Devers is not great, but he is expecting a lot and he thinks of himself very highly. So, I respect that he respects his self-worth, but, it's bad news for Boston. He's going to be there this year and next year with arbitration. He's coming off an all-star season last year, and he hit the first home run for the Red Sox this year off Garrett Cole. Garrett Cole has not been doing good against the Red Sox recently. So, they ended up getting the win, but it's not what you really want to see from Garrett Cole, especially at home. Luckily, the Yankees came to play. Anthony Rizzo and Giancarlo Stanton, Josh Donaldson getting the walk-off. But this year, apart from that home run, Rafael Devers has 2 doubles and 16 at-bats. So he's doing pretty good. He's just trying to build that worth, trying to get them more money this season so he can earn more money in free agency. And sticking with another failed contract agreement, we stay in the AL East with the Yankees, as I mentioned before. This one is Aaron Judge. He failed to reach an agreement, as I said. He was offered 7 years, $30.5 million a year, according to Brian Cashman, who actually he went public with this information. It's not normal that they would do this, but I think he wanted to add a level of transparency and show the New York fans, because he knows how ruthless they can kind of be. He wants to show them that he tried to get Aaron Judge back, and they're just far apart on numbers. It's no one's fault, really. There are some rumors that Aaron Judge vaccination status had an impression on his negotiations. As you know, you cannot go to Canada if you are not fully vaccinated, as we were seeing with Matisse Thybulle in the NBA. So that might have had implications on the contract talks. They said they didn't, but why would he bring them up if they were not important? Judge did not comment on the situation, and he's estimated to make between $17 and $21 million this season with arbitration. He was an All-Star in 2021, came in 4th in MVP voting, and had a career-high batting average with 39 home runs. Not a career-high in home runs, but batting average is kind of what you want to see. 39 home runs is still incredible power. He's not hitting over 50 like before, but I'm sure the Yankees would love to have Aaron Judge back, as he's been their best player for recent years. He's one of the most consistent players, but he is turning 31 years old, so we are probably going to see his value plateau. As I said, he's a little bit older than Rafael Devers, who probably has a little more room to grow value, but Judge's value will probably plateau soon. So I think you should stay with the New York Yankees. Personally, as a Yankees fan, I'm sure Michael Kay agreed. I'm pretty sure he did agree in that press conference, because they did ask him about it. And the Yankees have been very active in free agency and trading with IKF, Josh Donaldson, trading away Gary Sanchez, doing all these things to put New York in a better position. New York is a much better defensive team. They might not have the firepower and stuff with Gary Sanchez, but Gary Sanchez is very inconsistent. But they are a more solid, well-rounded team, and I think they always contend for a title. But I do think that is important to Aaron Judge, and I do think he should really think about it and come back to the Yankees, of course. So next we have my picks for this week. So we started doing daily picks on which team we think are going to win of all the games every day. So this is just my introduction to you guys. That's what we are going to be doing every day. And you can see my picks on Instagram at BITD Podcast. At the end of this week, Monday night, so this is filmed on Tuesday morning, so there's no games yet, I was 32-29, so I am still positive. We would like to be more positive, but we are still 3 games positive. So, we'll take it in our first week. We got room to improve. I just really didn't want to go negative in the first week and kind of it would have been a bad look for the podcast if I was negative in the first week. But we're going to start out with some freezing takes that have really hindered my pick algorithm. First, we got the Brewers starting out slow. They've been killing me in my picks. They lost 2 to the Cubs, and then they lost to the winless Orioles yesterday on Monday. They're a team that's supposed to win 90 games, possibly, I think, win their division, and they're starting out, I think, 1-3. It's not a great look losing to the Orioles, who were called on the broadcast the floor mat of the AL East. So it's not a great look for me, not a great look for the Brewers. On a good note, we have Yelich, Tellez, and Willy Adames starting out pretty hot, but the rest of the lineup is pretty cold, sitting around 200 or lower. Andrew McCutchen starting off slow. He was the center of that controversy with getting thrown at against the Cubs. So he did get their pitcher, Keegan Thompson, suspended for 3 games, so I guess he did something. That's something he has done. And their elite pitching rotation with Brandon Woodruff, Freddie Peralta, and Corbin Burns are not doing too hot. They all have ERAs over 5, so that's kind of a reason why they are struggling this early. But they should, law of averages, they should, level off and not get. They don't even need to get back. Corbin Burns doesn't even need to get back to All-Star or Cy Young level. Excuse me. They just need to be a reliable pitching staff. So we'll see what happens going forwards. Number 2, we got Padres losing season opener to the Diamondbacks. This was kind of bad for me. It was just a real punch in the gut in the first day. We had the Seth Beer walk-off on National Beer Night, which is very appropriate, as you know, because his name is Seth Beer, and then everyone, I'm pretty sure, got a free beer, so they definitely love Seth Beer. My pick was ruined, as I said, but everyone got a free beer, so at least someone won, or the whole stadium won free beer. The Arizona bullpen shut down the last 5 innings, and something that I really was upset about on this game particularly was the pitch count that a lot of teams are doing, because Yu Darvish had an immaculate start. I don't think he let up a hit in 7 innings, but he was at 90-ish pitches, so they took him out. And I'm like, what happened to this no-hitter perfect game type thing? I guess they don't really care anymore. It's they're playing the long game. It's a very long season. Robert Suarez and Craig Stammen could not finish out the 9th inning, so they eventually ended up losing to the walk-off. Manny Machado, Jay Cronenworth, Luke Voigt, and Will Myers all went hitless, and Tatis is not playing with his injury. In the Diamondbacks' defense, I probably should have reassessed after, realizing that Tatis was out. I probably still would have picked the Padres. Who didn't? If you looked at the statistics, it's probably 95% took the Padres. But I probably should have reassessed, seeing what's going on with Tatis and, maybe the pitch count thing too. Then we have the Dodgers losing 2 to the Rockies. The Dodgers are World Series favorites, as they always are, with the addition of Freddie Freeman. I had them losing 1 game to the Rockies, which I predicted correctly on the second day of the season, but not the first game, or whichever game that I did not pick. I only had them losing 1. Trey Turner, Will Smith, Freddie Freeman, Justin Turner, Cody Bellinger, and Mookie Betts are all batting under .235 as this is being recorded. Let's see. Walker Buehler, he had a decent game in his first start, but they won that one, and that was the only game that they won against the Rockies. Julio Urias got shelled in 2 innings of work. The bullpen has had some success, and the Rockies are just starting off way more hot than people think they were. They are, I think, leading their division currently. They have 5 hitters batting over 270. Newly acquired Chris Bryant is hitting over 300 in this series, or in that series. And the Rockies started off 3-1. So maybe I should pick them more. I didn't pick them today, actually, but I should probably consider them. They're a very young, an upcoming team. And Randall Grichuk has done pretty decent with the club, so maybe we should reassess our picks and pick the Rockies more. And then finally, we have Javi Baez single-handedly destroying my picks against the Tigers. In opening day, he went 2 for 5 with a walk-off double against the White Sox. Of course, I had the White Sox. Then he went 1-3 in the win over the Red Sox with a 2-run home run to put them ahead in the 8th. And of course, I picked the Red Sox. And, praise to him in starting very hot with his new club, along with Austin Meadows, who is starting very hot. Praise to them. I'm not going to hate on, people finding success, and specifically with their new clubs. I should give them more credit. I should probably give the Tigers more credit. Exceeding expectations for, I know it's only been 3 or 4 games, but I should probably give them more credit. And I had the Red Sox high on my list earlier in the season, but their pitching has really not been great, and they maybe should be given less credit. So no offense to the Red Sox, just looking out for my picks here. And this is not a pick. I just wanted to talk about the news with Alec Boehm. I don't want to get into the negativity of what he said, that he doesn't want to be there in Philadelphia. His emotions were high. If you've ever made an error in sports, you ever messed up in sports, it's not anyone else, it's you. Like, you're pretty much just projecting what's happening. He made 3 errors in 3 innings. He wasn't very happy with how it happened. He said some choice words. He apologized. I just wanted to say, we feel for Alec Boehm. We don't want to highlight what he's doing wrong. He's not a great fielder. He's a good hitter. But this could open doors for Bryson Stott. Not that we are hoping on the downfall of Alec Boehm. Just we do want to see Bryson Stott get his time in the major leagues. So that was in the news. Next, we got Young Gun of the Week. So our next segment for today, of course, is Young Gun of the Week. We like to highlight a young MLB player, not as much a prospect, but more of an established MLB player, someone getting more at-bats, someone really filling in that role with high expectations, a little room for failure maybe, or less room for failure compared to a prospect. So first we're going to start with Seth Beer that we talked about before. Hit that walk-off home run against the Padres. Really killed my picks. Put a damper on the start of my season. He was acquired by the Diamondbacks in a Zach Greinke trade after he was drafted by the Houston Astros in 2018. This is funny because we also have, I think later in the show, it's Lorenzo Cain who is involved in a Zach Greinke trade. As we know, Zach Greinke has gotten traded a lot, but not to New York because he does not want to play in New York City for some reason. Seth Beer, he hit that 3-run home run to walk off against the Padres after they were down 2 in the 9th. And in 2021, he had a similar season, much less at-bats. In 2021, he home run in his MLB debut, and he had 4 hits and 9 at-bats in 2021. So he's starting out in a similar manner with that power, showing it early and showing it often. Next, we have Tyler O'Neill, 26-year-old NL MVP candidate. According to Vegas Insider, he's not the top of the list, but he does have odds to win it. Up and coming at 26 years old, as I said. He won Southern League MVP in the minor leagues in 2016. He was a 2020 Gold Glover. He also was the 2018 number 4 prospect, so very high expectations, and I think he's fulfilling them very nicely. He was NL Player of the Week and NL Player of the Month back in 2021. And something else I just wanted to highlight, one of the main reasons that he is on this list today is I saw a picture of this dude with his shirt must have gotten ripped off after a walk off or a clutch hit, and he was massive. This guy was mad, like he looked like a football player. Just some baseball players are just way bigger and faster, and I don't know about faster, but way bigger and stronger and muscular than a lot of other people. Like I compared it to Giancarlo Stanton. He's just got this incredible build for a baseball player. Apparently or allegedly squatted 585 pounds. I don't know if a lot of people that's a lot of weight. That's like football players, as I said. That's like football player weight, maybe a little less, but 585. I'm very not a professional athlete myself, but I don't even think I've gotten over 300 something. Not to brag, but I'm kidding. But 585, that's almost 600 pounds squatting. It just sounds like a crazy number. His dad was also Mr. Canada, which means he was the nation's best bodybuilder. So it's kind of just incredible to see this guy's physique. And he definitely got it from his father and maybe his mother. I don't know what his mother did. But he does make up one of the best hearts of the order, best middles of the order, or you know what I'm saying, like best hitters basically on one team with Goldschmidt himself, Nolan Arenado, and Corey Dickerson. And of course, he's the youngest one at 26 years old, so he's got a bright future going forwards with all that power. Next, we got Wander Franco. I should have probably paid more attention to him. He was a late addition to the list, but we are going to mention him now and doing him the service now. He's hitting 600 through 4 games with 3 RBIs, and the Rays have started off 3-1. We're not going to count the last game, which I'll get to in a second. It was a rough day for the picks as well. In the first series against the AL East bottom Orioles, he did very well, while Rosarena and Lau have been slow out of the gate. Franco has been very productive and very consistent in what's looking to be his first full season in Tampa Bay. And as I said with the A game where they got completely wiped out last night, he had a surprisingly good game, had a couple of hits and RBIs. So it was a good sign to see him stay focused on the game and stay focused at his job at the plate and just doing what he needs to do as a player, not really thinking about the score, because it's easy to really fall behind and not pay attention, not just get really down on yourself and get in your head. But that's what Brett Phillips is for, and we'll get to him later in Meme of the Week. But next, first, we have Old Head of the Week, and we'll be right back. So now we are moving to Old Head of the Week, the opposite side of the spectrum. Old Head in terms of endearment, of course, as we said before. This is out of love. This is out of respect for our elders, respect for players that have been doing it so well for so long. So we are going to start with the new New York Met in his first start, Max Scherzer, 37-year-old, gets his first win with the New York Mets against his former club, the Nationals. He got a standing ovation from the Nationals fans in the district, as we like to call it, here in College Park, because we are part of the DMV, the district. He pitched 6 innings, 3 earned runs, and 6 strikeouts. As Max Scherzer does, as my friend likes to tell me, Max Scherzer doesn't let up a lot of runs, but he does let up a lot of home runs. So every run he will let up will tend to be on a home run. And one of his earned runs was to Josh Bell, who hit an absolute missile 440 feet in Nationals Park, which is technically what we expect from Josh Bell. Really nothing more. Just a great power hitter from Pittsburgh in the years before when he was an all-star, now kind of settling into a smaller role in the Nationals in his 3rd year, I believe. So Scherzer was a 2021 All-Star with the Dodgers and Nationals. He had a 2.46 ERA with 15 wins, and he did not lose a single game when he came over to the Dodgers at the trade deadline. So it's kind of immaculate. He came there to do a job, to help them get to the playoffs, be the great pitcher that he can be. While they did come up short, he did basically have a perfect season there, for lack of a better word, but it basically was perfect at 7-0. He is staying hot with his new club, which supplied him 7 runs in the game in his first start. And I just thought this was funny because the Mets historically have wasted DeGrom's great games with no decisions and even losses when he's been elite and not let up a lot of runs. So Jacob DeGrom might be punching the air right now, seeing as what his team has done, or what his team did for Max Scherzer in his first start. I just wanted to highlight in 2018, Jacob DeGrom had a 1.70 ERA, which is mental, and he went 10-9, which is just such a disservice to one of the greatest pitchers. To go one game over 500 and have a sub 1.75 ERA. I don't know if it's ever been done. So as I said, I bet he's probably punching the air, or not punching the air, but he's had some thoughts in the back of his mind about what has happened for Max Scherzer thus far, with him out, of course, but he's also punching the air because he's injured too. So we will move next to another pitcher in Adam Wainwright for the Cardinals. He has one start this season against the Pirates. Not a great team, but still very impressive to throw 6 shutout innings. He allowed 5 hits and struck out 6 batters. And he is 40 years old and has made 6 opening day career starts. He's an established veteran, obviously, on a St. Louis Cardinals team that has pretty much fully rebuilt from where he started. So he is still the ace, and having had a pretty good outing in his first outing of the year. He's coming off a 17-win season with over 200 innings pitched at 39 years old. Once again, he's like fine wine. He ages with grace. He's looking great, settling into his role, especially coming off a 17-win season with 200 innings. I just don't know how many times it's been done before. And he also pitched a league-high 3 complete games. So not only does he have a lot of innings, he's going 9 innings in an era where you don't go 9 innings. I think maybe it's just because, he grew up in the era where you did, so maybe he's more accustomed to it. He's not as spoiled with, these pitch counts as many other people are. He was 7th in Cy Young voting last year. And he's still the ace of the team, even though they got young Jack Flaherty coming up. He is on the he is out currently. So we're excited. We're happy to see Adam Wainwright holding his own. Not just holding his own, doing very well. Being one of the greater pitchers, one of the greater pitchers of all time, one of the greatest pitchers of this decade. And he was reunited with Albert Pujols. So everything is working out beautifully for Adam Wainwright in his Old Head of the Week award segment. Next, we're going to come back with Prospect Spotlight. We got some prospects who did some good things in their first starts of the MLB season or their MLB career, and they might not be prospects going forward. I have not decided the requirements, but this might be their last week that you're going to see them. We'll see you after this. So as I said, we are going now to the Prospect Spotlight, just an MLB prospect, an up-and-coming player who is in the minor leagues preferably, who is just catching everyone's attention, who's exceeding expectations, and just someone we feel like we should highlight this week. So some of these players that we had are carryovers from last week, and this might be the last week we are going to highlight them because they are technically not prospects anymore once they are in the MLB. I have to see how I'm going to, change the requirements for this, but there is plenty of talent in the farm system, so no need to stress. We have more and more baseball talent who will be highlighted in the Prospect Spotlight. So first we're going to start out with Bobby Witt Jr. this week. And we're giving him this spotlight because he got his first career hit with an RBI double for the Kansas City Royals. As you know, he was the number 1 prospect. And in the Royals series against the Guardians, he helped them take 2 of 3 games in a series where the Guardians were favored. He also made a phenomenal play in a different game in the 10th inning at home to keep the game going in extra innings, in which then the Royals were able to come in at bat in the 10th and win the game. And in that game, I think he went hitless, but he's still making a difference in the field when he is not maybe hitting as well as he could be. And he's just making an impact at the plate and in the field, as I said. So we just wanted to shout him out for that. Next, we got Julio Rodriguez. He had his first career hit with the Seattle Mariners in Game 2 of their series with the Minnesota Twins. He scored 1 run that game, and the Mariners took 2 games against the Twins. I believe the Twins were also favored. So we see now that these young players are kind of going against the grain, going against my picks, of course. Good for them, though. They're really establishing themselves. And otherwise, Julio Rodriguez Rodriguez, has gotten off to a sort of slow start, but his team has exceeded expectations thus far, so we're happy he got that first hit out of the way, and we're excited to see what else he can do going forwards, barring the slow start. For the third Young Gun of the Week, Prospect Spotlight, we have Hunter Greene, pitcher of the Cincinnati Reds. As we mentioned last episode, he is a member of the very young Reds rotation. He won his big league debut, and he absolutely dominated on April 10th. He struck out 7 batters in 5 innings, allowed 3 runs, but the Reds scored 5 runs while he was pitching, so he did eventually get his first big league win, as I said. And apparently he touched 102 and sat at 100. We see a lot of these young guys coming up with insane speed, insane velocity on their pitches, and Hunter Greene is no exception. He's probably the best of the best. And the Reds were able to take that game and another game against the championship hopeful Braves, who have not been looking great, but still props to the Reds for taking the series against a good Atlanta Braves team, and shout out to Hunter Greene for looking dominant in his first big league win. And next we are going to go to the surprise of the week. It's a player who might have exceeded expectations or who had played a little poorly. We expected more of them. Not to fret; they have a whole season to get back on track and back to the expectations. But just some food for thought. Then we'll be right back. So next, as promised, we are going to surprise of the week. And the first surprise of this week is going to be on the negative side. We are looking at Corbin Burnes of the Milwaukee Brewers. We expect a lot out of him being a Cy Young winner and an ERA title winner in 2021, but he did lose his first start, pitched 5 innings, let up a home run, and let up 3 earned runs for a 5.40 ERA. As I said, coming off a Cy Young, coming off an ERA title, and he was pitching against the Cubs in a game that they were projected to win, and the Cubs being a young, unproven team that is coming to the season with not very high expectations. And I think his performance on the mound in that game really has translated to Milwaukee's slow start, both on the mound with all their great pitchers in Freddie Peralta and Brandon Woodruff, of course, but also as a team, as they are, I believe, 1-3 currently. So it's not been a great look. And they are projected to win over 90 games, as I said before earlier in the show. And I don't know if they really look like a team that is going to win over 90 games. But we just want Corbin Burnes to return to that great Cy Young All-Star ERA title form as the number 1 pitcher of the Brewers. Next, we're going to go to Stephen Kwan of the Cleveland Guardians. He's 24 years old. He was a 2018 fifth-round pick. And if anyone has watched baseball this season, they know that he's been having an outstanding beginning of his season and career. He's 9 for 13, 3 RBIs and 3 walks through 4 career games thus far. He's reached base 15 times in his first 4 games, including a 3 RBI triple yesterday, which was Monday. And a more incredible stat, which is pretty next-gen stats if you ask me, or it's just the eye test if you were watching, which is a lot of watching baseball, of course. He has not swung and missed at a pitch yet. And that's like the hardest part of sports. The hardest part of baseball is hitting a round baseball with a round bat, as you've heard the whole story. It's the hardest thing ever. And he just literally hasn't missed the ball yet. Not like one swingy missing strike. Like, not even striking out, just a single pitch. I just find it kind of ridiculous. So in 2021, he hit 328 in Double and Triple A. And then 3 years at Oregon State, he hit 329. And I think him really translating that average to the Cleveland Guardians is kind of good unexpected news with Josh Naylor out. He wasn't really, supposed to be there at this point in the season. But him and Oscar Mercado have been absolutely raking as an outfield unit, so they are looking good in terms of outfield and production from those guys. And Guardians Twitter posted, and I quote, "Can't imagine not having the greatest hitter alive on our team, our baseball team." End quote. Of course, referring to Kwan. It's a joke, obviously, but he is having the best season at the plate thus far of any player. it's a bit of a stretch, greatest hitter alive, but you know where they're coming from. They're just very excited for their guy, and we're very excited too. We're excited to see what he can do going forward, and maybe he won't make this surprise anymore because he will just expect it out of him to be great. And we're going to end the surprise of the week with Jurickson Profar. He has 5 hits and 14 at-bats. He's one of the hottest hitters on the Padres behind Eric Hosmer. And Eric Hosmer has been pretty surprising himself, but he's more of an established player than Jurickson Profar, so we're going with Jurickson for this week. Maybe we'll get to Eric Hosmer if he continues it next week or the week after. Jurickson Profar is playing left field, and he's a young and valuable utility guy. He can play first, second, and all outfield positions, which is very valuable in the MLB, as we've seen with Marwin Gonzalez making the Yankees team as just a utility guy on the bench. Profar has played a great left field and made a phenomenal sliding catch to keep the Padres lead 3-2 over the division rival Giants last night. Of course, I picked the Giants, who ended up not winning, but praise to Jurickson Profar, who made a great catch. He has 2 home runs and 7 RBIs in 4 games, and he's looking to have his first full-time year in San Diego, possibly at that left field spot, very likely at that left field spot. I think he's locked it up. I think a lot of people believe he's locked it up. And he's had more success there than in other years with different clubs throughout his career. So all is looking up for Jurickson Profar. He's been very valuable and productive with Tatis Jr. out, and with C.J. Abrams, his replacement, not doing as well as they would have hoped. So shout out to Jurickson Profar for holding it down in left field for the Padres. Next, we got social media moment. We got some TikToks. We got some Instagram videos, and we got some just general memeage. So we'll be right back. We are going to social media moments of this week. We got 3. Just some lighthearted news to get the younger audience engaged. The younger audience loves TikTok and social media. So we're going to go to TikTok with Joey Votto. Joey Votto has burst onto the TikTok scene. I posted his first TikTok on March 22nd with a season preview of him in his uniform where they do the tremor, they throw the cleat up, he fake kicks it on. He's got his whole kit on, he's looking fresh in the Reds uniform. He also posted a video of him singing along to Goo Goo Dolls song Iris, and he seems to be in a dentist office. He's actually doing a duet with someone singing it, and he's wearing the bib at the dentist office, and he's singing it to his headphones, and I really didn't understand it, but it was kind of funny, so I enjoyed it. I also enjoyed Joey Votto's personality. He then posted a video of him and what seems to be maybe other Reds employees or staff doing the Chicky dance, which is this thing where 3-4 people I don't even know. I guess it's it would kind of be Teletubbies type music, or some Nickelodeon type thing where people do funny dances and whatever. And of course, Joey Votto is Chicky, which is the main person who does. It's kind of the center of the whole thing. And then he posted a video of him with teammates Kyle Farmer and Jonathan India getting dressed for opening day, where they do a before and after in the locker room, and then the before in the locker room, and then after they're on the field wearing all their uniforms. And then he did the slide glide dance before a game against the Atlanta Braves. And he did it with 2 people wearing Braves uniforms. I'm not sure if they were actual players. If they were, I'm sorry, I don't really know who they are. But they're doing the slide glide dance where it's they do some stuff with their feet. I don't know. I can't do the dance, but it was very entertaining, and it was cool seeing Joey Votto. He's hitting the moves, and he's not a young guy, but he's doing his best, and he's really in tune with the generation. And apparently when he posts TikToks before games, they're 2-0. So he posted 2 TikToks before games, and then the other 2 games, when he didn't post them before, they're 0-2. So apparently it's working, and he should be posting on TikTok more, just because it's funny, and apparently it helps him win games. And baseball players are very, very believe in that type of stuff. So I think you probably will keep it up. I don't know if I expected Joey Votto to be like this. I mean, he seems like a fun guy. He's a great baseball player. He seems like an interesting dude. Maybe a father. He's kind of got that dad energy, but I do appreciate it because, also as a fan of the NBA, I just don't like when they're interviewed, it's like such like stage answers. Like I just want to think about teammates and stuff. Like I'd rather see, some personality. Not even like if you're angry, you should kind of like hold it down and like not be angry and blame your teammates in an interview or whatever. But if he has a personality, so he should show it. So I just really enjoyed seeing him on TikTok. Next, we go to the Northwest Arkansas Nationals fan getting destroyed by his own beer, and I'm sure you guys have seen some of this, or seen this on TMZ or on the news or on Instagram. The Nationals are facing the Springfield Cardinals in the minor leagues, and Cardinal second baseman Chandler Redmond fouled off a pitch from Nationals pitcher Anthony Venezanio, I believe is how you say his name. So he fouled the ball straight back. The foul ball then hit the fan's beer, which was like on the, I don't even know, the wall or like the rail behind the plate where like the net goes up, and the ball hit the beer and had such speed, like the sheer speed of the ball, just knocked the can back into the fan and just did a like 360 beer can no scope and just drenched the fan everywhere in beer. And the fan seemed fine with it. He was laughing, he was happy, and it was fairly funny. I mean, I enjoyed it. It's got a lot of views on the internet, and he laughed it off. So, he did get his 5 seconds of fame, and it was unclear that if he got a free beer because of what happened. And this is just a joke I wanted to put in. So he got his 5 seconds of fame, and maybe he'll get a meet and greet like that guy on TikTok who was doing like the dance. This guy got like a meet and greet for like having one TikTok video that got a lot of views. So it's just funny how people are capitalizing on social media fame and whatnot. So hopefully this guy can get a meet and greet with other minor league baseball fans. Finally, just quick note, Brett Phillips is just an automatic meme every time he gets in the mound. He's usually the blowout position player pitcher for the Rays, and he let up a grand slam yesterday. He was throwing 45 miles an hour. I don't even know if his pitching motion was even legal. I don't know really how it works, but he's just an overall meme, and MLB fans love to see either the Rays blow people out or get blown out, because then Brett Phillips comes in and kind of makes a mockery of pitching. But we enjoy it. It makes the game fun. So up next we got our obscure player and today in MLB history, and we are going back to the 60s once again for our MLB player. So we will see you after this. So next we are going to our history segment. Our show, as I said, we are going to start with our obscure player or player through history, a player you might not know about. A player your parents might remember, your grandparents might remember. So maybe you will learn a new thing today. We are starting with Felix Millan, who is nicknamed the Cat. He played 12 years in the MLB between 1966 and 1977. He played between the Braves and the Mets. He was a 3-time All-Star in 1969, 1970, 1971. And he also won 2 Gold Gloves. But I think one of the most memorable things about Mr. Millan, or Mr. the Cat, is that he has one of the best strikeout to at-bat ratios ever. He struck out every 23 at-bats. And for people that don't really know how good that is, I said a joke to my friend earlier yesterday that he strikes out every 23 at-bats, but Joey Gallo strikes out every at-bat. No hate, Joey Gallo. We love you. We love having your power, your lefty power in New York, but it was just a funny joke. Also, he was forced to retire early after he suffered a shoulder injury in 1977. And you might think, shoulder injury, baseball, throwing the ball, maybe running into the wall, maybe laying out, hurting your shoulder. Nope, he actually injured his shoulder in a fight against Pirates catcher Ed Ott, after Ed Ott took a hard slide into second base and took out Millan to break up a double play. Millan then yelled at him and then actually punched him in the face with the ball in his hand. I guess that's adds some sort of force to the punch. Also probably would break your fingers, if anything. And then Ott eventually took Millan and picked him up and then slammed him over his knee, kind of like a WWE wrestling move. And, it injured his shoulder so badly that he had to retire from the MLB. but he did eventually go on to play in Japan in the Japanese Central League, where he won the Best 9 award. And what I read is I think he won this award kind of like as a popularity contest because he barely played enough games and had enough at-bats to even qualify for the Best 9 award. And the Best 9 award is like the All-Star game pretty much. Best player at every position. So I think he won it as a popularity contest. But in Japan, he did strike out 52 times in 1,139 at-bats. And that's similar to his MLB number of 23 because this was just about struck out every 22 at-bats. So still had that incredible ability to minimize strikeouts. And he also was famous for an unorthodox batting stance in which, this is probably why he didn't strike out, now that I think about it. He choked up like halfway up the bat, and you can even see it in like one of his playing cards. He choked up halfway up the bat, and usually that's what coaches tell you when you get like 2 strikes and you want to you're hitting for contact. So it definitely was, important to the way he played baseball. He was a stereotypical contact slap hitter, as I just alluded to. He was a career 279 hitter, so maybe not quite Hall of Fame, but still 280 is very good batting average. And he had 7 hits for every strikeout. So, just another level of his production and ability to minimize his strikeouts. And so now, to finish up the episode, we are going to Today in MLB History. It's a busy day for Pete Rose, which we will get into. And, we have some connections back from our last episode. So we're going to go back to 1963 with Pete Rose's first career hit. Pete Rose recorded a triple against Pirates' Bob Friend. We have another Pirate who's on the other end of our news segments for today. The hit came after 11 hitless at-bats for Pete Rose in his rookie season. And in his first career game 5 days earlier, on top of the 11 hitless streak, he did walk once, so he did get on base a little bit in that 11 hitless at-bats streak to begin his career. He then went on to hit 273 and eventually win Rookie of the Year, so the cold start really didn't matter. He won Rookie of the Year. And then, maybe we'll see what happens with this unknown Pete Rose. So we don't really know who that is. We'll see what happens, and that's a joke. But first, we are going to 1972, which goes back to our previous episode. Was last week on Wednesday, was the first game canceled due to the first player strike in 1972. We talked about this last episode, as I said. Now we get back to this strike. But on this day, a week later, the strike officially ended, and the strike ended after players and the league agreed on $500,000 in pension fund payments for players, I guess, after they retire, and also the introduction of arbitration, where, kind of helps the agreements and the talks between teams and players kind of getting their money situation correct, because they can probably be very stingy, as we have seen in several lockouts. The 86 games that were canceled for the amount of days that they did not play, the week, I believe, they were never made up, and the players never got paid for them. I don't think they should have gotten paid for them. I mean, I guess it's fine. But it did result in a shorter MLB season by a couple games. Between some teams played 153 and some teams played 156, so definitely not the 162 that we are normally accustomed to, which we are blessed to get this year. The A's went on to win that World Series, and it was their first World Series for 3 in a row. They were behind Joe Rudy, Reggie Jackson at the plate, Catfish Hunter, Raleigh Fingers, and Vita Blue on the mound, and that is just some incredible names for an incredible pitching staff. Catfish Hunter, Raleigh Fingers, and Vita Blue. Just a real spectacle of nomenclature for the people that know the big words. Next, we're going to go to 1994. Back to the Pete Rose that we were talking about before. If you don't know who he was, I mean, you probably should if you're watching this. He hit his 4,000th hit this day in 1994. He was a member of the Montreal Expos, and he came there via free agency after 5 years in Philadelphia after starting with the Cincinnati Reds in the Big Red Machine. He was 34, but he only spent 95 games with Montreal. In that time, he did manage to get his 4,000th hit. It was a double off of the Phillies' Jerry Koosman. And he took the 4,000th hit ball and presented it to his hitting coach, Billy DeMar. So I thought that was a great touch by Pete Rose. He gets the bad rap for, we'll get to the betting and stuff, but I thought it was a class act, because his hitting coach has probably been there for a long time. His hitting coach is a big part of what he's been doing his whole career. So I thought that was a good touch. He was then traded back to the Reds 4 months later, where he came up with, spent 2 seasons there and finished with 4,256 hits. He's a leader in MLB history in hits, games played, singles, and at-bats, and I think outs as well, but we're not going to talk about that because obviously once you play as much, you're going to get out. He has 3 World Series titles, 3 batting titles, an MVP, and 2 Gold Gloves, made 17 All-Star appearances at 5 different positions, which I think is the most positions ever. And as I said, he was banned from the Hall of Fame for betting on games as a player coach in his second stint with the Reds. But, I hope he can get into the Hall of Fame before he passes away. I'm pretty sure it's one of 2 still alive that are banned, but can get back in, supposedly. I agree that the betting on games was not great, obviously. But he only bet on his team to win, and he's arguably the best player of all time. 4,200 hits is incredible. Derek Jeter doesn't have that much, and he was unanimous. I know he didn't do the whole betting thing, but still, he's still just an incredible baseball player. And he's the only player in the top 20 in career hits that is eligible for the Hall of Fame that is not in the Hall of Fame. So let's just think about that. Do it. The information would do what you want with that information, but I think it should be in the Hall of Fame. It's just my opinion. And then we go to 2011 with Barry Bonds, was ruled guilty for obstruction of justice in his case for using steroids. The controversial slugger was found guilty of obstruction of justice. It was a federal investigation into his steroid use. He was accused of lying to a federal jury when he said he took substances that were steroids, but he said he did not know they were steroids at the time. He also said that nobody had ever injected him except for the team doctor, but his personal shopper, it'd be your own people, said that she saw his trainer inject him with something. So as we know, one of the best hitters of all time, greatest players of all time, probably the greatest player of all time, if you ask my dad. Obviously, he watched more than I did. A career leader in home runs, 762, with an asterisk, but a leader in walks, 2,558, and just intentional walks, too. Just an incredible amount of intentional walks. So his on-base percentage is crazy at .444 in his career with a 1.051 OPS and the 4th highest OPS plus ever. I was skeptical of Bonds, obviously, because when you're younger, you hear of, the steroid era and how they were cracking down. That's when you start watching the news, for me at least. 2011, 2000, whatever, late 2000s. So I was kind of against him, but now I grow more accepting of him, knowing that it was a problem, that it was something that everyone did, not just him. He also, my dad always says, steroids didn't make him hit the ball. He still had to hit the ball. They just made it go farther, maybe, made him stronger, but he still had to put in all the work and still was a great baseball player. Also, David Ortiz made the Hall of Fame, and I know he was never charged with taking steroids or proven, but there were rumors of it. So I think they got to be more lenient. Also, reports say that this was something I found very interesting in doing my research for this. Reports said he started using steroids in 1999, and Barry Bonds was an 8-time All-Star before then. He hit .288 with a .410 OBP and a .968 OPS, and 3 MVPs before he allegedly started taking these steroids. So he was an absolute dog, an absolute menace at the dish before he even took the steroids. And that's possibly a Hall of Fame career, even before the steroids. And just also on top of this, the conviction was overturned in 2015. So I don't really know what we're doing here. I think he should get in. But I understand how people are kind of skeptical, but I do think he should get in. So today we also have 2 birthdays. We got Hunter Pence's birthday first in 1983. Nicknamed the Reverend. He's turning 38 years old today, so happy birthday, Hunter Pence. 4-time All-Star, 2-time World Series champs with the Giants, 1-time All-Star in Houston in 2009, where he started his career with 25 home runs and 14 stolen bases. He was an All-Star in 2011 when he was shipped off from Houston to Philadelphia, where he hit .314. He was then traded to the Giants in 2012 and played there until 2018. He was 2-time All-Star. And he won those World Series, and he hit .272. He then played 1 year in Texas, hit just under 300 through 83 games. Then he returned to the Giants, the promised land, in 2020 for the shortened season, but just played 17 games. Now he streams under the name @HunterPence on Twitch. I remember he had this very unorthodox swing. He basically was against every mechanic ever. You've seen the Sports Science shows. Everything he did was just not what you should be doing, but it worked, and his pants were above his knees, which is a trend now that I don't understand, but He just did everything like so wrong, and he looked so out of sync. But he was an all-star and a champion, and he hit 280. So eventually, it worked out for him. Next, we got 1986. We got Lorenzo Cain's birthday. Happy birthday to Lorenzo Cain. He's turning 35 years old today. He's entering the final year of his contract with the Milwaukee Brewers. He's a two-time All-Star, one-time Gold Glover, 2014 ALCS MVP, and 2015 World Series champion with the Kansas City Royals. He spent the first year of his career, in Milwaukee, but then was traded to Kansas City in a deal that brought Zach Greinke to the Brewers, and back to Zach Greinke. It all comes full circle. Let's go, baby. He spent 7 years in Kansas City, stealing 120 bases and batting just under 290. And he found his way back to Milwaukee in 2018 via free agency, signing a 5-year, $80 million deal. In his return since 2018, he has stolen 61 bases and batted 278 in 5 seasons. So happy birthday to those two fine baseball gentlemen. And I think that's all we got for today. Follow our Instagram at BITD Podcast. Instagram, of course, as I just said. We post the picks, as I said. We post scores, updates, players of the games. We will be back next week. This episode will be coming out tomorrow on Wednesday. It is Tuesday. Got to give everyone time to put this. Got to give the Tunnel Vision Sports team a lot of time to put this together. They're doing a great job. We're doing a lot of great work over there. So I will see you guys next Wednesday, and just have a great week. Enjoy baseball, watch some baseball, and I'll see you later.